This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. So the Browns did something interesting that 100% flew under the radar. Because I know nobody has been really talking about it. But the thing that they did that flew under the radar was they brought back two players that I think are key. Josh Dobbs and Awok. Now, Awok is important because he's going to start. He's going to be the middle linebacker. He's going to hold it down. He's going to be a consistent piece in this defense. And he was pretty good last year before he got hurt. Got hurt very early in the season last year. He should be ready to go by the beginning of the season. And he seems to be one of those dudes that the locker room loves, so he's going to be important. And Josh Dobbs is important for a different reason because it signals this shift of what the Browns want from their offense, right? What are they expecting? Because when your backup is Jacoby Brissett, you are preparing for a different style of offense than Deshaun Watson. But if your backup is Josh Dobbs, I think that says something very different about what you expect your offense to be, which is something that relies more along the lines of Deshaun Watson's skill set. And I was thinking about the morph and the changes that the Browns have had this offseason, and I thought to myself, why is there so much division between fans on the reaction to everything that this team does, especially on the offensive side of the ball? And I think a lot of it has to go with what fans' perception of Deshaun Watson is. We have to remember, most NFL fans, and this does not make anybody better than anybody else. I'm just pointing out a fact, and I'm not trying to say I'm superior than you because I watch more teams. It's my job. Like, I expected you to do your job. This is just my job to watch a lot of games. Most fans do not have the time, the freedom. They have kids, responsibilities, jobs to watch a bunch of football games on Sunday. Most fans have time to watch one football game on Sunday, and it's usually for their favorite team, and that's what they can bargain, and then they have to do responsibilities for the rest of the week. So if you're one of those fans who lives in the real world, who doesn't have a lot of time to watch a bunch of different games, you only know of Deshaun Watson what you have seen as a Cleveland Brown. You have heard tales of Deshaun Watson. Maybe you have caught a game or two of Deshaun Watson, but you don't really know Deshaun Watson outside of the 6 games that you saw him in. And if you only saw Deshaun Watson in the context of those 6 games, you would not have the impression that somebody who watched him outside of those 6 games would have of him. Now, which impression is more important is an important question to ask, because those 6 games were the most recent, but also come with the heaviest asterisks. But they are the most recent. The bigger sample size is what he did in Houston. And I think that's what the big split is. There are fans who were watching the national TV games when Deshaun Watson was on them, was watching Deshaun on the Texans and wishing that the Browns had a quarterback like him. And now they see that he's in a Cleveland Browns uniform and they view him much differently than the fans who really only know of Deshaun Watson of what they've heard in the news and what they've seen in the Cleveland Browns uniform. The fans who have seen what he has done outside of Cleveland think of him much closer to Pat Mahomes than the ones who have only seen him in Cleveland, who look at him as an upgrade to Baker Mayfield. That is the fundamental difference. If you look at all the moves that the Browns have done, your reaction will be different depending on where you are on that spectrum. If you think that Deshaun Watson is closer to Pat Mahomes than average, you're going to look at Elijah Moore and see the upside in having a quarterback like Deshaun Watson. You're going to see a signing like Jordan Atkins and get excited because you can see the upside in what he has, right? That's where the disconnect is, where you have fans on the other side who are like, well, Elijah Moore hasn't had that much production. There are fans on this side that say Elijah Moore has never had a quarterback as good as Deshaun Watson. That's the fundamental disagreement that fans are having. When you look at it through that lens, all of these arguments, all of these beefs on social media, all of these disagreements that we have within the fan base start to make sense because it's, again, Where on the spectrum of greatness do you think Deshaun Watson sits? Those of us who only are familiar with his game in Cleveland are going to be much lower on that spectrum than those of us who have seen him be great in the NFL in Houston. Just is what it is, right? That's why somebody who's very familiar with Deshaun Watson's game can see him get Elijah Moore and get very excited about it because they know what can be and they have a vivid picture of what can be. Is the same way that somebody who has not seen a lot of Elijah Moore, does not watch a lot of Jets games, does not watch a lot of old Houston games, does not see the potential in that. That doesn't make one fan lesser than the other. That just is what the situation is. And that's fascinating to me. That because of the contrast of who Deshaun was in Houston and what he showed in 6 games in Cleveland, and I contend those 6 games weren't really that bad. They weren't as bad as a lot of people want you to make them believe. We did the film breakdown on them. Every film breakdown, I was like, hey, this really wasn't as bad as people made it seem. Every single game. Sometimes it's not as good as some people make it seem, but it wasn't as bad. Like, I think people are overreacting in one direction on this. But that's the fundamental disagreement within the fan base. And that will be, honestly, the stone that sets this team's balance. And what I mean by that is if Deshaun Watson is on that other half of the bag spectrum, this team will not be good. Elijah Moore will not work out. Jordan Atkins, that will not work out. If Deshaun Watson is closer to the Pat Mahomes end of the spectrum, this is all going to work out. It may seem cruel to put this much pressure on the quarterback who's spending his second year in the system, but this is necessary because he gets paid. The pressure is on Deshaun Watson. This team's future this season hinges on Deshaun and where he sits on that spectrum. If Deshaun's great, Elijah Moore is going to work out. It's going to be great. If Deshaun's great, Jordan Atkins is going to be great. David Njoku is going to be great. Donovan Peoples-Jones, Amari Cooper, they'll be fine. We're not going to be crying about Jed Wills. But if Deshaun is not, well, then everybody's going to be mad at everybody. And nobody's going to look like a winner. That's the reality that we're living in, right? The reason this spectrum is able to exist is because none of the players that they're trading for, signing in free agency are going to have a bigger impact on each game than Deshaun Watson will. That's why there could be such a split. If you're on the half of fans, well, not even half. If you are on the 2/3 of fans that believe Deshaun's going to be on that other end of that spectrum, every move the Browns do, you feel like is going to help Deshaun win football games because they're just adding players. If you're on that other end, where there's a vocal minority of fans there, then every move the Browns make doesn't matter because they're not going to be able to overcome Deshaun Watson's contract. Now, I think that paints a picture that's a little bit overly pessimistic. I think that paints a picture that is a bit short-sighted of the big picture here. But that is what the feeling will be if Deshaun does not deliver this season. But that's the question. Will Deshaun Watson deliver? Where on that spectrum does he belong? Will he be better than 2020? Will he be as good as 2020? Will he be almost as good as 2020? Will he be the best he's ever been in his career? What happens if Deshaun Watson has the best year of his career? Think about that. If the year before media outlets, honestly or not honestly, and I think this was a lot of dishonest stuff when people were saying that he was ranked 36 out of all 32 quarterbacks. I don't think there's a world where you would rank Deshaun Watson honestly 36. Even if you don't think he played well in those 6 games, there's no world where you're ranking him there. But okay, you ranked him 36 because you don't like him. That's fair. If you told me, hey, personally, I don't care for Deshaun Watson of what he's accused of off the field, I would have no disagreement with you. I would not argue with you. I would understand and respect that opinion. But if you want to come up to me on the street and tell me Deshaun Watson's never been good at quarterback, then that's just a lie. I got to argue with you about that. That's the difference. So a lot of people who felt that they don't like Deshaun Watson and wanted to lie about his football ability wrote stuff like that. Now, if you rank a quarterback 36 in the NFL 1 year, and then next year, let's say he gets to 7 or 5, maybe he's in the top 3 conversation. 7-5 is about where he's been his whole career. Top 3, that'll be new grounds for him. Well, do you give him the MVP? You got to give him most improved. If you said that he was 36 one year and now he's 5 in the NFL, how do you honestly not give him most improved player? Straight up. A lot of these people wrote themselves into that hole. Because if Deshaun Watson just has a regular year next year, half these people, they're going to feel obligated to give him most improved player because they wrote that dumb shit last year. I tried to tell people, don't write that. Don't lie about how good he is on the football field or how bad he is on the football field. You ain't got to lie about it. Just write the truth. Because when you put lies out there, they tend to have a price. And now Deshaun's in a position where if he has a normal season, you got to give him comeback player of the year. And what narrative and message does that send to the league? Is that what you want to do? That's what you wrote yourself in, though. The league did that to themselves. Maybe he gets MVP. That sounds hard to believe right now. But again, MVP is about narrative. And if you go for 36-5, you're going to have a case to be MVP. People didn't have to rank him that low, but this is where we're at. The perspective of Deshaun Watson has affected the outlook of every move within the fan base and outside the fan base. And it will only be the objective performance of that player that will change any of that. That's my thoughts for today. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.